Hi folks. This video is to help you when you're ready to start working with the version of your 3-view drawing that has gradations. So the first thing we're going to work with, I'm going to introduce you to, is a mesh. And I have posted some videos on LinkedIn Learning that are good introductions onto the mesh just to help you get the conceptual idea of it. And I am going to show you right here how to do it as well. So I have this page here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I want to be able to select colors with the eyedropper. So I am going to create a duplicate page so that I can borrow from it. So in order to do that, you go to the artboard tool, and holding down the Option key, I have this page selected. You see the dotted line. Holding down the Option key, and on a PC, that would be the alternate key. And I'm just dragging it over, okay? And so just like that, notice my picture's not there. The reason why my picture's not there, I'm going to do Command Z, is because I have a layer locked. So you have to make sure that everything you want to transfer is not locked. So again, I am going to hold down the Alt or Option key and just drag over. And it makes a duplicate of the page with everything on it, okay? So you can see here that I have started by making this domed top. So let me get rid of some of the things. I'm going to go back and lock this layer. I'm going to get rid of these dots. I'm going to show you work on that later. So here I have my domed top, and I'm going to look at what's going on with the colors here. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm actually going to delete these dots over here. Okay, so zooming out again, you can see them both side to side. So the first thing in order to create a mesh is you want to select it, and then you're going to go up to Object, Create Gradient Mesh. Okay, so this will allow you to change the number of rows. So I can pick 10, and the number of columns, but I actually think 8 and 8 are probably fine for what I'm doing here. And I'm going to say OK. There is also a mesh tool over here. To set your first mesh, you go up to Object, and you're going to say Create Gradient Mesh. Okay, so that's different than what's going on over here. This is altering it after you've already made it. So the first part is to select your object and go up there to work on it. Okay, so now I have my mesh here, and I am going to unclick, and then I'm going to click and hold down the Shift key on some certain diamonds in here, okay? So I'm looking at the diamonds here, and I'm looking at what's going on over here. So I'm going to unclick this one, and the ones that I have selected are pretty much what's going on over here, and then I can take the eyedropper and select that. So what it's done is it has highlighted the ones that I've highlighted. It's borrowing that color that I've selected. Okay, so now I'm going to do some over on this side, holding down the Shift key and selecting the points. I'm going to grab some of these, and then I'm going to go to my eyedropper and pick this color that's going on over here. So now there's a darker color going on right at the edge, and I'm going to my direct selection tool, and I'm going to click on, not quite getting it, click holding the Shift key onto the points that are on the side, and I'm going to grab the darkest color that's in there. So when I unclick, it looks a little funky, doesn't it? Do Command Z. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to, holding down the Shift key, select 2 points, go over here, grab the eyedropper, and select that color again. Okay, so let's look at it. It's looking a little better. I think one of the things that happened was I was a little off aligned here, so I was looking at that image right there. And find that a little bit better. So I'm going to try again. So sometimes it's a pain in the neck that you have to zoom in because you can't get a good view of everything that's going on. Click, holding down the Shift key, and grab this one as well, and go to my eyedropper and grab the darker color over here. So you can start to see how that builds up and works. Now, as you keep working, selecting those points from over in your other object, you'll start to see how it can shape. So now look, I clicked with the direct selection, with the selection tool, not the direct selection tool. So remember, you need to be on the, just like when you're modifying the points on the path. So which arrow you're on is what's going to determine which points you end up hitting. And again, you're hitting the Shift key to collect those points. Okay, and then I'm going to show you where it gets really bright. So I'm going to unclick and click here where I see it's got this brightness. I'm going to click and grab some of that light. Now, this light doesn't feel as intense or as big as what's going on over here, so I can go in again there and maybe get a lighter light and see how I like that. Then the other thing that I can do is notice that there are handles in here. So I'm going to click and I can start to, first of all, move that point around. And then the other thing is that I can click on the handle. So I'm going to click and then grab a handle and start to pull out those handles. And they give it a funky shape as well as pulling it out, so you can swivel as well. And so what I've got here might not be right because I'm starting to get that hard edge there. I need that hard edge to be a little bit more on the top there. So I'm going to pull this in and pull this one up and get hopefully a harder edge, a little bit more aligned over there. And then I can also pull in this handle from this other edge to temper into that a bit. So you can see there's a lot that you can do with this, okay? So I'm going to stop here and come back with some other techniques to show you in a moment. You see, I've continued along and filled in the coloring in here. And so when you saw me working on this spot, we got it brighter and sort of rounded, and I left a little bit of a spot here. But if we actually look at what's going on here, they're really distinct shapes. This and this are distinct shapes, and they're not so much gradients. So in some cases, it may make sense to just go and pull in a color that's around that area, and to then add a shape on top that can be transparent, and that we can go and get a really specific shape on there. So this is just sort of more the undulating color in the background. The other thing I want to point out too is you can see some of the mesh, when I did the automatic mesh, because it was following the contours, that it goes in this outside area. So you can also still pick colors for this area based on what's going on in here, and it does fill in. You saw what just happened, so I can select this one and I can grab something and fill it in. One of the things that can happen with what I've been doing is I've been picking individual colors, so it's a little spotty, where it does help to pick more pieces at a time so that you don't end up with each one of these dots feeling like a different color. If you're familiar with Photoshop more and really picking out the pixels and the different colors, you can see how you can, in the same area, you can get a very different color pixel. So let me grab this one for a moment, and I am going to use the eyedropper to pick here, and look at what happens. Really didn't make a difference. If I were to select a little bit over, it's not really demonstrating what I wanted to show, but there are slight nuances with pixels next to each other. So sometimes you may get something that's very bluish or brownish. You can see here I've got more of a blue coming in here and a pinker, rosier color there. So that's something I want to think about. So I still haven't gotten this edge, so I'm going to click some of these points in here. I'm going to zoom in. Holding down the Shift key to grab some of these. And that one. That one to go and grab the color for that edge. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, now I'm going to zoom out. So I still have a bit of highlight there, so I'm going to work on that. But in the meantime, what I want to point out to you is that you can go in and actually draw that shape of that color in there, right? And so then I can look at it here and I can use the eyedropper to get that basic color. It's a little bit bluish in there, right? And then I can play with effects. So in the effects, one of the things that you have is a stylized, which has giving you inner glow, outer glow feathers. So one of the things I'm going to play with is inner glow, and it gives me some options. So it gives me some opacity, the blur, and whether it's coming from the center. And I've got the preview here too, and I'm going to use screen is the default, but you can play with all of these different things, whether it's overlay, and sometimes things won't make much of a difference with what you've got. And I'm going to move it over to this area here and look at what's happening. So it's very subtle, and maybe it's too subtle. So I may want to go and play with that a little bit more. So what happens is when I go back up to effects and I go to stylize and I go to inner glow again, I get this message. So if I want to create effect over an effect, I would use this. But I want to adjust the effect I have. So I go to the appearance panel. So I'm going to click on that to get rid of it. And here's my appearance. So my inner glow, I can click on this and it brings up this menu. And so I am going to perhaps soften my transparency. I might increase my blur, turn it to the edge, and look and see if it's changed much there. It hasn't changed it too much, but it might be just enough for what I want. The other area I have is right here, so I would do the same thing for that. And I am going to stop this video and come back and show you the next step.